Hey Zinesters, Dayna here. I ran a poll recently on my YouTube asking folks what topics they'd be interested in seeing videos about, and a good number of you said you wanted to see videos about how to make zines, zine tutorials. So I thought I would take you along as I printed some zines at home. I am also planning some videos about collating your zines and binding your zines, but those are a little more in depth. They take a little longer to produce. So in the meantime, come along with me as I print 5 different zine titles here at home. The majority of my zines at home. I keep all of my masters or the original collaged pages that I make copies of my zines from here in this light blue box. I keep them all just in a stack. So today we're going to be printing Hag Witch, and then I have 4 mini zines I want to reprint. I keep them in this red folder so that way they're all in one place and I can find them. I like to keep my zines organized in these boxes because it makes storing them a lot easier. I don't have to search for where my masters are, where my already copied pages are, where my zines are. They're all in one place. We're going to start with mini zines. I got some yellow paper, some golden rod, and some blue, and I'm just mixing them up. So that way when I print the mini zines, they kind of print on a random selection of these colors. Rather doing the entire run on just white or one single shade of a color. So I'm going to load them in to the printer tray, and then I'm going to take one of my masters and put it face down on the scanner bed. Then I just have to select my quantity and hit start, and it'll start making copies. My apologies for the jittery camera. I had to film some of this footage handheld because my desktop tripod wasn't tall enough to capture the printer. Once all of my pages have been printed, it's time to fold them into mini zines. If you've been here a while, you've probably already seen my mini zine tutorial. But if you're new, I recommend checking that video out. There should be a link to it in the top right-hand corner of this video. And if not, just visit my profile and look for the video that says Making Zines from One Sheet of Paper. It's a great mini zine tutorial, if I do say so myself. And it's just the same steps that I'm doing here, where I'm folding each piece of paper into 8 separate boxes, and that's going to form our pages of the zine. Gotten that one folded. Now I just need to do that 59 more times. I've got my LaCroix. I have to have my sparkling water. I enjoy quite a bit of LaCroix. I buy the Costco-sized pallets of cans, and I go through one Costco pallet a week. So if you ever want to give me a tip to thank me for my videos, just send LaCroix to my house. That would be appreciated. All right, now we are all nice and folded, so now we have to cut the zines. I have a little bit of toner on my fingers from doing all of this folding. I found that when I print on colorful paper, for some reason the toner just doesn't stick as well. So now the next step for making our minis is we make a cut along the folded edge in the middle to that center fold point. Then we just fold the zine in, flatten it out, and it becomes a wonderful 6-page mini zine. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want a more in-depth tutorial of this process, I recommend checking out my Make a Zine from One Sheet of Paper video. So if I'm just cutting a handful of zines, I'll cut them one at a time. But for larger quantities like this, I like to make a stack of 3 or 4 zines and cut them simultaneously. All right, now it is time to fold them into their final mini form. Even if you cut them in a stack, you still have to fold them one at a time, but I kind of find it meditative. It's a repetitive process that I can kind of zone out in. should be the last one. There we go, and voila! Here are the 4 zines that we reprinted today. These are all demos from zine workshops I've taught. I create them while I'm teaching folks how to make a mini zine so they can have a visual example. This first one is called A Phrase. I made it using cut up love letters. I was teaching a Valentine's Day themed class, and I thought that it would be fun if we took famous love letters from history and made cut up poetry from them. So that's what you're seeing here. And a fun fact about this mini is I designed it to sort of be like an Ouroboros, where any page can be the front cover, any page can be the back cover. You can start reading it at any point in the poem and it will make sense. There's no beginning or end. It is like a complete circle. Next up is Walkabout. This is like an existential thoughts zine. It was inspired by a walk I took through my neighborhood when it was raining outside. It was kind of a meditative experience. So I used this zine to remember that day. Next up is Mess. This zine was an experiment in texture. I love using sewing patterns as part of my zine collages. They have like bold lines printed on tissue paper and you get the coolest textures when you photocopy them. And last but not least is This Feels Silent. I created this zine using a poem I had written at a workshop I took at the Johnson County Writers Conference. And then later in that day when I was teaching my mini zine workshop, I used that poem and created a collage that kind of brought the words to life. So yeah, here they are, the 4 minis that we made today. I love these zines. I don't really highlight them as much as some of my other titles, so I'm glad that they're getting their due. Now, we're also going to reprint copies of Hag Witch. Hag Witch is my perzine-spellbook hybrid, and it is heavily collaged. I love this zine so much. It's probably one of my favorite zines I've ever made. You can see the original collages here. I am actually working on a video for the future about collating your zines, how I laid out the page numbers and what order they would go in, because when I created this zine, I folded each paper in half, numbered the pages, and then collaged them so I could fold the paper to see what the whole spread would look like, but it would be in the correct order for photocopying. Because when you're doing a multi-page zine, it's a little bit more complicated than that mini. It does start the same way though. We're just going to start by making some copies. I like to put my copy quality setting on text for this zine because it makes it more high contrast. Instead of having shades of gray, you get really rich blacks. And it is an aesthetic that I think works really well for this heavily collaged look. So now I am printing one of the pages, and then we have to manually do double-sided printing. My printer does not offer duplex or double-sided printing automatically, so I have to load the printed pages back into the paper tray and then print the next spread on the other side. The settings you're going to use for double-sided printing really depend on your printer. So now that all my pages are printed out, you can kind of see what that text setting did. It really brings out the bold, contrasty look from my original collages. And now we have to collate the pages, which means just putting them in order, so that way they're ready to be folded and stapled. While I'm doing that, I wanted to talk a bit about my printer. I have a Brother MFC 7840W, which is a laser printer that uses toner rather than ink to print the pages. I've found if you're printing black and white zines, using a laser printer and using toner rather than ink, it's really economical. You can get a lot more pages, a lot more bang for your buck than you would if you were using an inkjet printer. I also love my little Brother printer because it was completely free. I got it from a business that was going to just be throwing it away, And it works great. It works great for my purposes. It's not fancy, but it gets the job done. So I'd recommend, if you're looking to print your zines at home and do it as affordably as possible, look on your local Facebook Buy Nothing groups or Craigslist pages for businesses or offices that are giving away laser printers. I know a lot of offices are kind of moving to a model where they are renting or leasing copy machines. So a lot of them are just kind of getting rid of these smaller laser printers, and you can usually get them for a really good deal. All right, now that our pages are collated, we have to fold each one. I'm using a bone folder here, which is that light blue knife-shaped implement. It's a piece of plastic that I can use to help make my folds extra sharp, and we're gonna make those edges nice and crisp. While I get these zines folded, if you would please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me get this video out into the YouTube ecosystem. And I just do this as a hobby. It's just kind of fun for me. So your likes, subscribes, and comments, they kind of mean the world to me. Now that we've got these all folded, I thought I'd give you a look inside of the meat of the zine. This is a zine that's about my home and garden-based witchcraft practice. There are articles about gardening, spell jars, tarot. It's one of my favorite zines I've ever written, so I'm really excited to share it with y'all here. Now we need to cut the zines down so they have the squarish size. I have a template that I made just from a piece of scrap copy paper that I folded to be the size that I want the zine to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my stacked pages. I'm going to put the template on top, make sure everything is nice and lined up, and then I'm going to put it inside of my paper cutter. There we go, and then on that folded line, I'm going to line it up with the cut line. So that way the fold that creates the squarish shape on the template is lined up with where the paper cutter will be cutting the zine. When it's all lined up, I take the template out and then I make my cut. Then I just repeat that on the other side of the page, and my zines are nice and square. This is like a little tedious, but I really like that square shape. Now that the guts of the zine are finished, we need to move on to making the covers. I print my covers on this beautiful purple paper. I'm just gonna get them printed just like I did the insides. Here they are. And once they're all printed out, we need to add a little bit of sparkle to them. I create this foil effect using a laminator and a special type of foil that is made to react to a laminator and a laser printer. So what's going to happen is I'll cut down the foil to the size of the stars, and then when I run it through the laminator, the foil sticks to anything that has the laser printer toner on it. And since I'm putting it just over the stars, it'll stick to just the stars. This is kind of a tedious process. It takes a while. It takes me maybe a good 10 minutes per cover to get all of the stars foiled. A lot of that's just waiting though, because it kind of goes slowly through the laminator, so that way the heat really helps that foil adhere to the toner. But I think taking the extra time to do this, it really adds something special to the cover of the zine. So for me, it's worth it. If you're interested in doing this to your own zines, I've found you can find really affordable laminators at the grocery store Aldi. And then I purchased the special toner reactive foil off of the internet. And I will link some shops down below in the description box where you can purchase a laminator and some foil if you're interested in doing this on your own zines. It does only work with laser printer zines. So if you use an inkjet printer, unfortunately this will not work. You have to use a laser printer that uses toner to make the prints. But as you can see, it comes out of the laminator, and then you take off the foil and you have these beautiful shiny stars. Now that all of our stars are shining, we just need to cut our covers using that same template. I do end up with quite a bit of scrap paper cutting these zines down to this square size. I've actually been saving all of my scraps, both the paper scraps and the foil scraps, and I plan on, when I get enough scraps, I'm going to make some handmade paper using all of these Hag Witch scraps. So that way I have this cool black, white, purple, shiny paper that I can use in my own projects. The last step, but certainly not the least, is stapling. This is a long arm stapler. It makes it so I can staple on the center fold of pages. However, there are many different ways you can bind your zine, and as I mentioned previously in this video, I am going to be working on a full-length video about different methods for binding your zine, so keep an eye out for that in the next couple of months. This is the finished Hag Witch zine. I think I've said it a few times in this video already, but this really is one of my favorite zines I've ever printed. I'm so exceptionally proud of how it looks and also the information I share in it. So if you are a witchy zinester as well, visit catmothcrow.com if you want to get your hands on this zine. And that's it. Thanks for coming along with me as I reprinted 5 of my zines here at home. I hope that you learned something, and if you have any questions about making your own zines or printing your own zines at home, let me hear them. I would love to help you print your own zines. I'd love to answer any questions. And yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. Have a wonderful day. See you later.